They gave the alien princess to a human as a prank, and now she is a mother by choice. Ethan Parker had always liked quiet places. The colony on the edge of human space suited him perfectly. It was small, peaceful, and filled with machines he could fix and improve. Most humans wanted excitement, adventure, or fame. Ethan wanted calm and order. He was not a hero. He was just a man who liked to understand how things worked. The colony itself was built on the rocky surface of the planet Turvan 4. The sky was a dull orange, with thick clouds that moved slowly across the horizon. Large machines hummed and clanked as they worked to extract minerals and energy from the ground. Ethan loved to wander around the machines during his breaks, watching their precise movements. There was something satisfying about the way everything fit together perfectly, even in a place so far from home. One morning, Ethan was working in the power station when Commander Lyle came into the control room. Lyle was a tall man with a wide face and a voice that carried authority without shouting. "Ethan," he said, "you have a visitor. Something unusual." Ethan looked up from the console. "A visitor? Here?"
Yes. I don't know all the details.
"Just go meet them in Dock 7. Curiosity got the better of Ethan." He wiped his hands on his jumpsuit and walked through the metal corridors toward the docking area. The halls smelled of oil and ozone. He passed other workers, nodding to them, but no one seemed excited or even surprised. Visitors were rare, especially on Turvan. 4 but unusual visitors were almost unheard of. When Ethan reached Dock 7, he stopped. Standing in the middle of the landing pad was a figure unlike anything he had ever seen. She looked human at first glance, but something was different. Her skin had a soft golden hue, and her eyes were larger than normal. They glowed faintly, like sunlight reflecting on water. Her hair was long and silver, flowing almost as if it moved on its own. She wore a long dress that shimmered slightly, though it was simple and neat. She held herself with a quiet grace, as if she was aware of every movement around her. "Hello," Ethan said cautiously, unsure of what else to say. I'm Ethan. I work here." The girl tilted her head slightly, studying him with curiosity. "I am Leora," she said, her voice soft but clear.
I was sent to you, Ethan blinked. Sent to me?
"By who?" Leora gave a small smile. "By those who thought it would be amusing." "Amusing?" Ethan repeated, frowning. He was not sure if she meant him or something else. "I don't understand." Leora looked down at her hands. "It is a prank. I am supposed to be given to you." Ethan froze. He stared at her, then around the empty dock. "Given to me?" "Yes," she said. "That is what they said. I am not sure why." Ethan ran a hand through his hair. This was not in any protocol manual. It was not in any colony rule. And it was definitely not in any human law. A visiting alien princess was beyond anything he had prepared for. I don't know what to do," he said honestly. Leora stepped closer. "Do not worry. I will learn. I can adjust. Humans are interesting and patient, I hear." Ethan took a deep breath. He had faced dangerous machines, storms, and system failures, but nothing felt as strange as standing in front of this calm alien girl who had been given to him as a joke.
Adjust. Okay.
"Well, I guess we start with basics. Food, clothes, place to stay." She nodded. "I can do that. I can follow instructions." Ethan motioned toward a small shuttle parked at the dock. "We can go to my quarters. It's simple, but it's safe." Leora looked around, her eyes catching every detail of the metal walls, the glowing control panels, and the distant view of the orange sky. She seemed fascinated, like a child discovering a new world. "It is different from my home," she said softly. Ethan walked beside her, careful not to show how nervous he felt. He could feel her eyes on him, always observing. "Yeah, it's a little rough around the edges, but it works." Inside his small quarters, Ethan motioned to a chair. "You can sit here."
I'll bring some food.
Leora's gaze swept over the room. There was a small bed in the corner, a table with some tools and papers, and a few personal items that Ethan kept from his life on Earth. She walked slowly around, touching the surfaces gently, studying how things were made. "Humans live simply," she said. "I like it." Ethan brought a tray with basic food, bread, cheese, and water. Leora sniffed the air curiously. "This is edible?" "Yes." "Mostly safe," Ethan said with a small laugh. He had never served an alien before, but he assumed she could eat something simple. To his surprise, she took a small piece of bread and tasted it carefully. "Interesting," she said. "It is not unpleasant." Ethan relaxed a little. "Good. That's a start. We can teach each other." Leora looked up at him with a slight smile.
Yes, I want to learn everything about humans.
Ethan felt a strange warmth in his chest. He had spent years alone in this colony, fixing machines and keeping systems running. He had never thought he would have someone so different interested in him. Not in a romantic way, just in a human connection. And somehow it felt comforting. Over the next few days, Ethan and Leora began their strange routine. She learned how to cook simple meals, how to operate basic machinery, and even how to speak in the local dialect. She made mistakes, often humorous, spilling water or breaking small items, but she never complained. She adapted quickly, her curiosity driving her to understand everything about human life.
Ethan, in turn, began to share his knowledge of machines, energy systems, and the colony's inner workings.
Leora listened with fascination. She asked questions that sometimes made him think differently about problems he had solved 100 times. Her perspective was strange, almost alien, but insightful. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long orange shadows across the colony, Leora and Ethan sat outside on a platform overlooking the rocky landscape. "Do you ever feel lonely?" Leora asked suddenly. Ethan shrugged. "Sometimes. But I like quiet. It's different from loneliness. I get bored, sure, but not lonely." Leora looked at him seriously. "I am often lonely. In my world, I am surrounded by people, but not by friends. I am treated as something to display, not to know." Ethan nodded slowly. He understood that feeling. Being surrounded by people did not always mean being understood. "Well, here you can at least try to be yourself, even if it is strange to me." Leora's eyes glimmered. "Ha ha 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 ha, I like that. I want to try." As days passed, the prank that the aliens had planned seemed less important. They had expected chaos, confusion, or at least embarrassment. But Ethan and Leora created something unexpected, a quiet friendship. They shared stories of their homes, their families, and their small dreams. Leora asked about Earth, about humans, and Ethan explained the little things he remembered from his childhood, playing in the snow, learning to fix a broken radio, building model ships. Leora laughed sometimes, a sound like wind chimes, and Ethan felt lighter. The colony no longer seemed so empty, the machines less lonely, and the sky above less dull. One morning a message arrived from Zithera, the alien planet. The hologram projected a regal figure, clearly amused. "Greetings, Ethan Parker," the voice said. "We trust you are taking care of Princess Leora. Remember, this is a prank. Do not take it seriously." Ethan stared at the projection. Leora, standing beside him, looked calm but intrigued. "Did you hear that?" Ethan asked, frowning. Leora smiled faintly.
Yes, they think this is a joke.
"But I do not mind. I like learning from you." Ethan rubbed his face. "Well, that's reassuring, I guess." The alien court expected chaos, but instead they had created a quiet partnership. Ethan and Leora had no idea what the future would bring, but they were beginning to trust each other, to rely on each other in ways neither of them had expected. And in that quiet colony on the edge of human space, two very different beings began something that would change both of their lives forever. Days passed quietly in the colony. The rocky plains of Tervan, 4 stretched endlessly under the orange sky, and the hum of machines filled the air. Ethan Parker and Leora settled into a routine, strange but comfortable. Leora learned the rhythms of human life, and Ethan found himself enjoying her curiosity more than he expected. Every morning, Ethan would wake early and go to the power station. He checked the machines, monitored the energy flow, and made repairs as needed. Leora followed him most of the time, watching closely. She asked questions about everything, even things that seemed simple. "Why do you have to tighten this bolt?" she asked one morning, leaning over his shoulder. "It holds the gear in place," Ethan said, turning the wrench. "If it comes loose, the machine can break. Even small mistakes can cause big problems."
Leora nodded. I see. Attention to detail is important.
"Humans must be careful." "Yes," Ethan said, smiling. "Careful and patient. Otherwise, life becomes harder." After work, they would return to his small quarters. Leora explored, touching walls, furniture, and tools. Ethan often found her inspecting things he had never paid much attention to. "You humans make everything simple," she said one afternoon. "Even machines are straightforward."
"On my planet, nothing is simple."
"Everything is large and complex. People are controlled by rules, and they follow orders without thinking." Ethan laughed softly. "Well, sometimes simplicity is the best choice. Makes life easier to manage."
Leora's eyes brightened. "I like that."
"I like freedom. I want to learn everything about it." Evenings were the best part of the day. Ethan would take Leora to the edge of the colony where the platform overlooked the plains. The sun dipped low, painting the rocks in shades of gold and red. They would sit together, sometimes in silence, sometimes talking about their lives. "Do humans always live this far from their home planets?" Leora asked one night, her silver hair catching the last light of the sun. "No," Ethan said. "Most humans live on Earth or colonies closer to Earth. I came here because
I like quiet. I like to be where things are stable.
it's easier to think, easier to work, easier to exist without problems." Leora studied him. "I understand. I, too, like quiet moments. In my palace, noise and commands never stop. I cannot breathe freely. Here I feel free." Ethan nodded. He felt a strange kinship with her. She had been given to him as a prank, yet here she was, learning, laughing, and asking questions. She was not a princess with demands or rules. She was a person, curious and thoughtful, and he found himself enjoying her company more than he thought possible. As they grew closer, Leora began to explore small parts of the colony on her own. Ethan had to keep an eye on her, of course, because the planet was not entirely safe. Sometimes the winds would blow violently across the rocky plains, and small creatures that were harmless in groups could become dangerous when disturbed. But Leora was careful, moving with grace and attention. "You must stay close to me," Ethan said one day as they walked near the mining fields. "This place is not dangerous most of the time, but accidents happen." Leora nodded. "I will. But I also want to see things. To understand humans fully, I must watch their world." Ethan sighed, then smiled. "All right, but stay where I can see you. Promise?"
"I promise," she said, her voice soft but firm. During one of their walks, Leora noticed a group of humans fixing a large drilling machine.
She stopped and observed quietly, tilting her head. "Why do they work together?" she asked. Ethan explained. "Humans often work in groups. Machines are heavy and complex. It is faster and safer if everyone helps." Leora nodded thoughtfully. "I see. Cooperation is important. On my planet, we do not cooperate like this. People only follow orders. They do not share ideas freely." Ethan glanced at her. "Sounds like your world is very strict." "It is," she said, looking down. "And lonely. I do not want that life anymore." Ethan felt a warmth in his chest.
"Then you don't have to. Here, you can choose."
"You can decide your life." Leora smiled faintly. "That is comforting. I like choice. I want to learn how to make decisions like humans. Their days continued like this, filled with small lessons, laughter, and shared work. Leora quickly learned simple engineering, cooking, and even human humor, though she sometimes misunderstood jokes. Ethan found himself laughing more, even at moments he would normally have spent alone fixing machines. But not all days were peaceful. One morning as Ethan checked the power system, a hologram blinked to life. The message was from Zithera, the alien planet where Leora had come from. Ethan frowned.
What now? Leora stepped closer, curiosity shining in her eyes. It is probably a message from my family, she said.
They are curious or angry. The hologram displayed a stern-looking alien woman, clearly of high rank. Her robes shimmered with patterns that moved like liquid.
Greetings, Princess Leora, the alien said. We have observed your actions.
You are far from home. Why do you remain with this human? Ethan stepped back, unsure what to do. Leora raised a hand, her expression calm. I am learning, Mother. I am exploring life beyond the palace. I am free to choose. The alien frowned. Freedom is not yours to choose. You are a royal. You must follow protocol. Return immediately. Leora shook her head. No. I am learning. I am safe. I will not return until I decide it myself. Ethan watched silently. He was amazed by her courage. Most humans would have been afraid of such a confrontation, but Leora stood tall, unshaken. The hologram flickered, then vanished. Leora turned to Ethan. They are upset. But I do not mind. I am learning from you. That is more important than their anger. Ethan nodded slowly.
You're brave. Not many could do what you just did.
She smiled faintly.
I have had no choice before. Now I do.
As the days turned into weeks, Ethan noticed small changes in Leora. She laughed more freely, asked questions more boldly, and sometimes even teased him.
One evening, as they worked repairing a small shuttle, she looked at him curiously. Ethan, she said softly, do humans feel love for others like this? She gestured between them. Ethan paused, surprised. Love? Some do. Some don't. It is
Complicated, but yes.
people can care deeply for others even without obligation. It grows from time, trust, and understanding. Leora tilted her head, thinking. I want to understand this. I think I already feel something like it. Ethan's heart skipped. He looked at her, unsure what to say. Well, it takes time. You don't have to understand it fully yet. Just notice it and learn. She nodded. I will. I want to learn everything about humans, including this. Their friendship deepened. Leora became a part of the colony, not as a princess, but as a person. The humans slowly began to accept her presence. Curious, but cautious. She helped where she could, learning tasks, fixing minor problems, and observing the strange ways humans solved everyday challenges. One day, while exploring the colony, Leora asked Ethan about children. Humans have children differently from my species, yes. Ethan nodded. Yes, humans choose when to have children. It's personal, not a duty. People decide if and when they are ready. Leora's eyes softened. I like that. Choice is precious. On my planet, people are expected to follow rules. Children are decided for them. Ethan smiled. Well, here, you could decide anything. Your life is yours, and you are free to choose. For Leora, this was more than freedom. It was hope, something she had never felt before, something humans took for granted every day, the ability to make choices. As night fell, the colony quieted. Machines hummed softly, and the stars blinked above in a clear sky. Ethan and Leora sat outside, watching the distant horizon. I feel happy, Leora said softly. Even though I am far from home, even though I was given to you as a joke, I feel content. I feel alive. Ethan nodded. Sometimes the strangest beginnings lead to the best things. Leora looked at him, her eyes shining. I think you are right. Perhaps this prank was not a mistake after all. Ethan chuckled. Well, if it wasn't a mistake, then we better make the most of it. And so their days continued, filled with lessons, laughter, quiet moments, and small challenges. But beneath the surface, both Ethan and Leora felt the first sparks of something neither had expected. Trust, respect, and the beginning of a bond that could change their lives forever. The calm of Turvan. 4 did not blast. One morning as Ethan was checking the power grids, a sudden alarm blared through the colony. Red lights flashed on the walls, and the usual hum of machinery was joined by the urgent calls of workers. Ethan's heart pounded. What now? He muttered, rushing toward the control center. Leora followed closely, her silver hair brushing against her shoulders as she ran beside him. In the control room, the screen showed an unexpected sight. A small alien fleet had appeared in orbit above the colony. Sleek ships glinted in the pale sunlight, moving with precision.
They were not here for trade or diplomacy.
The humans had never seen ships like these before. They were fast, deadly, and clearly armed. Ethan swallowed hard. They're from Zithera, he said. Leora's eyes narrowed. They are here for me, she said calmly, but there was a flicker of worry in her glowing eyes. Ethan turned to her.
Are you sure? Yes. They follow orders from my family.
They do not come lightly. They will demand our return, and they may not take no for an answer. The humans in the room were panicked. The fleet was too fast, too strong, and the colony's defenses were minimal. Ethan felt a weight settle on his shoulders. He had faced storms, broken machines, and accidents, but nothing like this. This was a real threat, and it was personal. Leora stepped forward.
Ethan, do not panic. We can handle this, together.
I know their tactics. We can think faster than they can expect. Ethan nodded, though his hand shook slightly. He had little choice. He trusted her judgment more than anything else he knew.
All right.
Tell me what to do.
They moved quickly.
Leora analyzed the fleet's movements, pointing out patterns and weaknesses. Their ships are strong but predictable. If we can hide in the asteroid belt nearby, they will have difficulty tracking us. Then we can contact allies for help. Ethan worked the controls with Leora guiding him. His hands moved fast, checking shields, diverting power, and preparing escape routes. He realized how much he relied on her. Without Leora, he would have panicked. With her, they had a chance. The fleet's lead ship transmitted a message. The alien voice was stern, commanding, and clearly impatient. Princess Leora, you are required to return immediately. Resistance will be met with force. Cooperate, or we will take measures. Leora's jaw tightened. Tell them I choose to remain. I am not returning. Not yet. The voice hissed angrily. You have no choice. You are a royal. Return now or face consequences. Ethan felt his stomach tighten. Consequences could mean war, or worse. Leora, maybe we should... No, she said firmly. They do not understand freedom. I must show them I have choice, but we can fight smart, not reckless. Trust me.
And so they ran.
The colony's small ships were activated, but they were slow and fragile. Ethan and Leora boarded one of the fastest shuttles. Leora helped navigate, using knowledge of Zythera fleet patterns. Ethan handled the controls with precision, following her instructions. As they left the colony, the lead ships fired warning shots. Energy beams streaked past them, hitting rocks and sending sparks into the air. Ethan gritted his teeth. We're lucky these shots missed. Leora's focus was absolute. Do not worry about luck. Focus on movement. Every choice matters. For hours, they darted through asteroid belts and rocky canyons. The fleet pursued relentlessly, but Leora's guidance kept them out of danger. She pointed out safe paths, calculated distances, and predicted enemy movements. Ethan marveled at her intelligence and courage. During a brief break, when they had hidden behind a massive asteroid, Ethan looked at her. You're amazing. I don't think I could have done this without you. Leora looked back, her eyes glowing faintly. And I could not do it without you, Ethan. We make a good team. Their teamwork was tested again when they found a small outpost in a remote asteroid cluster. It belonged to independent traders who had no loyalty to Cythera. Leora and Ethan pleaded for temporary shelter. After a tense discussion, the traders agreed. Inside the outpost, Ethan finally allowed himself to breathe. That was close, he said. Leora smiled faintly. Yes, but we are safe for now. And I have learned much about human courage. You are brave, Ethan. Ethan felt a warmth he had never expected. I'm just trying to keep you safe. Leora reached out and touched his hand lightly. You are doing more than that. You are teaching me to trust. That is rare. The traders brought them food, and they ate quietly. Leora observed humans' reactions, noting how they worked together, how they shared food, how they laughed even in danger. She had never seen such resilience. Over the next days, they prepared a plan. They knew the Zitharan fleet would not leave them alone. Leora suggested sending a message to a human coalition, requesting help while they used stealth to avoid detection. Ethan learned quickly, sending signals, preparing systems, and ensuring they would not be found. But even as they worked, tension remained. Leora's eyes would sometimes drift to the stars, thinking about her home, her family, and the people she had left behind. Ethan noticed. You worry about them, he said one night as they checked systems in the shuttle. I do, she admitted. But I do not fear. My concern is what they may think. They do not understand choice. That is what matters most. Freedom is rare. Ethan nodded. You have freedom here. You are safe. And I'll make sure it stays that way. Days turned into weeks. The fleet remained in orbit, watching, waiting. Every attempt to send help was met with interference. Every movement had to be calculated. Ethan and Leora worked tirelessly, their bond strengthening with each passing day. They shared jokes, small victories, and quiet conversations under distant stars. One evening, as they rested on the observation deck of the outpost, Leora spoke quietly. Ethan, I have thought about the future, about choices, about life beyond survival.
Ethan looked at her curious.
What do you mean? I do not only want to live freely, she said. I want to create life. I want to be a mother someday. Not because someone tells me, but because I choose to. Ethan felt his heart tighten. That is a big choice. Yes, Leora said softly, and I have never had the chance before. Now I see. I can decide. And I want to. One day, when it is right. Ethan's mind raced. He had never thought about parenthood seriously, but seeing the resolve in Leora's eyes, he understood her determination. Then, we will figure it out together, when the time comes. Leora smiled faintly, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. Yes, together. But danger was never far. One morning the fleet broke the blockade of distant asteroid defenses and sent a small strike team to search the outpost. Ethan and Leora had anticipated this. They hid in secret tunnels beneath the station. Ethan's hands shook as he activated the shields. They're coming! Now, Leora crouched beside him. Stay calm. We can do this. Use what you know. I will guide you. The alien strike team entered the station, but they were unprepared for the human stealth systems and the tunnel's complexity. Leora had memorized every path, every weak point. She guided Ethan silently, moving them past danger, outmaneuvering the aliens at every step. Hours later, the threat was gone. Ethan collapsed into a chair, exhausted. That was too close. Leora sat beside him. We survived. And we will continue to survive. We are learning together. Ethan looked at her. She was calm, composed, and unshaken despite everything. You're incredible, Leora. I don't know what I would do without you. She reached for his hand, holding it gently. "And I do not know what I would do without you, Ethan. You have taught me courage. You have taught me trust. And I feel alive here." As the stars blinked outside the observation window, Ethan realized something. This strange, unexpected life, born from a prank, a mistake, a joke from alien nobles, had created a bond stronger than any he had imagined. Danger, uncertainty, and challenge were all around them, but together they could face anything. And Leora's words stayed with him. Freedom, choice, and the possibility of life beyond survival. He had never thought about these things before. But now, with Leora, he understood that life was more than just existing. It was about connection, love, and the courage to make your own path. The fleet might still be out there, waiting. The alien court might still demand obedience. But for the first time, Ethan and Leora felt that they were not just surviving. They were beginning to live. The small outpost in the asteroid cluster became their temporary home. It was cramped, dusty, and cold, but it was safe, and for the first time, Leora felt she could breathe freely. Ethan had set up the living quarters as comfortably as possible, and together, they had repaired the communication systems, shields, and engines. They were preparing for the day when they could leave the cluster for a safer, more permanent place. Leora spent her days learning about human life and her nights observing the stars. She had never seen the universe so clearly, so vast, and so full of possibilities. On Zithera, the sky had been controlled, polished, and artificial. Here, everything seemed real, infinite, and free. Ethan noticed how she moved through the outpost with confidence now. She no longer hesitated or looked uncertain. She examined machinery, helped with repairs, and even assisted with small navigation calculations. Each day she grew stronger, more independent, and more human in her actions, even if her appearance remained otherworldly. "You've changed," Ethan said one morning, handing her a set of tools. "You're not afraid anymore. You adapt fast. It's impressive." Leora accepted the tools, smiling faintly. "I have to adapt. If I cannot, we will not survive. And I want to live fully, not only survive." Ethan nodded. He was beginning to see how much courage and determination she had. Living fully, that's a good goal. Most humans don't even think about it. They just go through life. Leora tilted her head. "I do not want that."
I want to choose. I want to create something
Meaningful. Ethan froze for a moment, realizing she was speaking about her desire to build a life of her own. "Meaningful? Like what?" he asked carefully. Leora's eyes softened. "Like a family. A life where I decide what to do. Where I am not a tool for others. Where I can care for someone. Perhaps even become a mother someday." Ethan felt a surge of emotion. He had never considered himself ready for such responsibilities, but the determination in her voice inspired him. "We'll figure it out," he said softly. "One step at a time. Together." She smiled faintly.
Together, she echoed.
Days turned into weeks. The Zytheran fleet remained in orbit, but it rarely approached. Leora and Ethan focused on improving their ship, a small craft capable of long-distance travel and evasion. Leora learned the controls quickly, often outperforming Ethan in navigation simulations. They had a natural ability to understand patterns, trajectories, and tactics. One afternoon, while they were calibrating the ship's shields, a sudden alert flashed. A small probe had detected a fleet of neutral traders approaching. Leora's eyes lit up. "Humans like us. Perhaps they can help us." Ethan nodded. "It's risky, but we might get supplies and information. Are you ready?" "I am ready," Leora said firmly. They maneuvered the ship to meet the traders. At first the humans were wary. They had heard rumors of an alien princess and a human hiding together, and stories spread quickly in the clusters. But Leora spoke confidently, explaining their situation without fear. Her words, calm and clear, impressed the traders. One of the traders, a man named Leo, nodded. "You've got guts. Most humans would have panicked by now. And you You've got skills. He looked at Ethan. You too. You're lucky to have each other. Leora smiled. We are learning. Together, the traders provided food, fuel, and maps of nearby systems. Leora studied the maps with fascination. The universe is vast, she said softly. So many stars, so many worlds. On Zythera, everything was limited. I had no choice where to go or what to see. Here, I can go anywhere. I can choose my path. Ethan watched her, a mix of pride and admiration in his heart. Then let's choose carefully. We need safety first and freedom second. Leora nodded. Yes, safety and freedom. And then everything else. At night, while the traders slept, Ethan and Leora sat in the observation deck, looking at distant galaxies. Leora reached out and took Ethan's hand. Do you ever wonder if we were meant to meet? If this accident was fate? Ethan smiled faintly. I don't know about fate, but I do know. I'm glad we met. You've changed my life, Leora. And you have changed mine, she said softly. I was afraid once, afraid of everything. But now with you, I feel alive. I feel free. Weeks later, the outpost became their training ground. Leora learned how to repair the ship independently, calculate trajectories, and even practice basic defensive maneuvers. Ethan guided her, but she quickly surpassed his expectations. One day, while checking the engines, Leora asked, Ethan, will humans ever understand how I feel, how I think about choice? Ethan paused, wiping sweat from his forehead. Maybe not fully, but they can understand actions, and your actions show courage, intelligence, and heart. That's enough. Leora smiled faintly. Actions are powerful. They speak louder than words. On my planet, actions are limited. Here, I can choose them freely. The bond between them deepened, and trust grew stronger. They relied on each other not only for survival, but for understanding and comfort. Nights were spent talking about their pasts, dreams, and fears. Leora shared stories of her palace, her strict life, and the loneliness she endured. Ethan spoke of Earth, his quiet childhood, and the machines he loved to fix. One evening, Leora's curiosity turned to a personal question. Ethan, when humans choose to have children, how do they decide? How do they know it is the right time? Ethan thought carefully. It's different for everyone. Some feel ready with age or experience. Some feel ready with love. It's not about rules. It's about choice and being responsible for another life. Leora nodded thoughtfully.
I want that.
I want to choose being, not because someone tells me, but because I am ready. And perhaps I am ready someday. Ethan's chest tightened. He had never imagined a life like this, but seeing her resolve, he felt something unfamiliar, hope. Then, when the time comes, we'll decide together. You and I. Leora's eyes glimmered. Yes, together. As the days went by, small joys brightened their lives. They would cook meals together, laugh at failed experiments, and share quiet stargazing sessions. Ethan began to teach Leora about Earth's stories, myths, and simple pleasures. She loved the tales, sometimes laughing, sometimes asking questions that made Ethan think differently about the world. But danger was never far. The Cytheran fleet had not forgotten them. Patrols occasionally scanned the cluster, and spies lurked in nearby systems. Leora and Ethan always stayed alert, using stealth and strategy to avoid confrontation. One morning, while monitoring the fleet from a hidden observation post, Leora noticed a new pattern in the patrols. They are changing routes, she said. They are learning. We cannot stay here forever. We must move before they discover us. Ethan nodded. I was thinking the same. We'll need a plan, a path to freedom. Leora studied the star maps. There is a system far from their influence. Uninhabited, but stable. We can go there. We will be safe. And I can live freely. Ethan smiled faintly. Then let's prepare. together. As they worked, their thoughts often returned to the future. Leora dreamed of a life where she could choose, where she could build a family, and where she could live without fear. Ethan began to imagine the same: quiet mornings, shared work, and the possibility of a family with Leora by his side. Even in danger, hope grew. The prank that had brought Leora to him had become something more: a partnership, a bond, and a chance at a new life. And for the first time, Leora did not feel like a princess trapped by rules. She felt like a mother in training, a human in spirit, and a person with the power to decide her path. One evening as they watched the stars, Leora spoke softly. "Ethan, I think I am ready. Ready to choose. Ready to live fully. And perhaps one day, ready to bring life into this universe."
Ethan looked at her, his heart full.
"Then we'll face that day together. And when it comes, we'll do it right. Together. And in that quiet hidden outpost, far from Zithera, far from rules, and far from fear, Ethan and Leora began to imagine a life beyond survival. A life full of freedom, choice, and love. Distant stars blinked coldly as Ethan and Leora prepared their ship for departure. The outpost had served them well, but remaining there was no longer safe. Patrols from Zithera had become more frequent, and Leora's family was growing impatient. They wanted her back, and they would not wait forever. Ethan checked the systems again. Shields are stable. Engines are calibrated. Fuel is enough for a long trip. "You ready?" Leora nodded. "I am ready. We leave now before they detect us. I want to live freely, and I want us to be safe." Ethan swallowed hard. The truth was, he had never piloted a ship under such pressure, but Leora's confidence steadied him. "Then, let's do this. Together." The shuttle lifted quietly from the outpost, slipping into the shadow of nearby asteroids. The Zitheran patrols passed overhead, scanning for signs of movement. Ethan's hands moved quickly over the controls, following Leora's guidance. "They're searching this sector," Leora said softly. "We must stay low and move through the asteroids. They will not expect it." The ship twisted and turned through the asteroid field. Sparks of debris flew past, but their shields held. Ethan felt his heart pound, adrenaline mixing with relief. Every maneuver, every choice mattered. Leora's instructions were precise, clear, and calm. Without her, he knew they would not succeed. Hours passed as they navigated the dangerous path. The patrols eventually moved on, leaving the shuttle hidden among the rocks. Ethan exhaled, leaning back in his seat. "We did it. We're safe. For now." Leora smiled faintly, her glowing eyes reflecting the distant stars.
Yes, but this is only the beginning.
"We must find a permanent home, a place far from Zithera, and far from those who would control us." Ethan nodded. "I know a system. Uninhabited, quiet, full of resources. We can start fresh there. No one will find us easily." Days passed as they traveled through the void. The distance gave them time to speak about the life they wanted to build. Leora shared stories of her childhood on Zithera, the strict rules, the endless court ceremonies, the loneliness. Ethan shared stories of Earth, of simple joys of machines, and of quiet moments he had cherished as a boy. One night, while floating in the observation deck, Leora reached for Ethan's hand. "Ethan, I have thought more about the future. About family. About family." Ethan's heart tightened. He had suspected this moment would come, but hearing her voice calm and certain brought a new weight. "I'm listening," he said softly.
I want to choose to be a mother, Leora said, her gaze steady.
"Not because it is expected, not because anyone tells me, but because I want to bring life into this universe. To care, to love, and to create something meaningful." Ethan looked at her, amazed by her resolve. "Then we'll do it together. When the time comes, we'll decide." "You and I." "Yes," Leora whispered. "Together." They spent the following weeks preparing for their new life. Leora studied human culture, medicine, and simple biology. while Ethan upgraded the shuttle to allow long-term habitation. They made plans for a home, for a life, and for a child someday. Every day their bond grew stronger, not just as companions but as partners. The Zitharan fleet, unaware of their final destination, remained in orbit around known human colonies, searching for them but unable to detect their precise location. Leora felt a quiet satisfaction in knowing that she was no longer a pawn. She was free. When they finally arrived in the uninhabited system, the view took their breath away. A large planet, rich with oceans, forests, and fertile land, rotated slowly in the light of a nearby sun. Small moons orbited it, creating tides and calm cycles. Leora's eyes glimmered with wonder. This will be our home, she said softly. Ethan nodded, his heart full.
Yes, here we can live, build, and start the life we want.
The shuttle landed near a wide river that sparkled under the sunlight. Trees swayed gently in the breeze, and the air was fresh and clean. Ethan helped Leora step out, and they stood together, taking in the quiet, peaceful world. This feels real, Leora said. I can breathe. I can live.
I can choose everything from now on,
Ethan smiled.
Yes, and we'll face it together.
No rules but our own. No expectations but what we choose for ourselves. They spent the first days exploring the land, marking areas for shelter, and gathering resources. Leora learned quickly how to use human tools and methods to build shelters, grow food, and purify water. Ethan guided her, but often she took the lead, her alien abilities giving her insight into the land's patterns and rhythms. One morning while walking along the riverbank, Leora paused. Ethan, do you ever think about the child we might have, about what life will be like? Ethan took her hand. Every day, I think about it a lot, and I want to be the best father I can. I want our child to grow in freedom, love, and safety. Leora smiled, leaning into him. That is all I want too. A life of choice, a life of love. Weeks turned into months. Leora began preparing her body and mind for motherhood. Ethan supported her, learning all he could about human biology, nutrition, and care. They spoke endlessly about names, traditions, and the world they wanted their child to inherit. During these months, they also explored the system, mapping safe zones, discovering fertile soil, and learning which areas were best for farming, hunting, and living. Leora's intelligence and observation skills proved invaluable. She learned to identify edible plants, track animals, and even predict weather patterns. One evening after a long day of work, Leora sat by the river, watching the sun set behind the trees. Ethan joined her, and they shared a simple meal. The quiet was peaceful, a stark contrast to the chaos they had faced on Turvan, and the constant threat from Zithera. I never thought life could be like this, Leora said softly. Safe, free, and full of possibility. Ethan smiled. Neither did I, but it is. And we made it happen. Together. Leora reached for his hand, her eyes glowing faintly. Together, she whispered. Months passed. Leora became stronger, healthier, and more confident. Ethan marveled at her courage and resilience. She was no longer the princess forced into a joke. She was a woman who had chosen her life, chosen her home, and chosen a family. One quiet morning, Leora told Ethan she felt ready. It is time, she said. I am ready to bring new life into this world. Not because anyone expects it, but because I choose it. Ethan's chest tightened. I'm ready to. We'll do this together, every step. The child grew quickly, safely nurtured by Leora and cared for by Ethan. They built a small home near the river, filled with warmth, laughter, and learning. Ethan taught the child about machines, nature, and the stars. Leora taught the child about choice, courage, and curiosity. Days were filled with work, learning, and quiet joy. Nights were spent under the stars, talking, planning, and dreaming. The fear of Zithera and their past life seemed distant, almost unreal. Here, on this new world, they had everything they needed. Leora often watched Ethan as he worked with the child, fixing a machine or explaining a concept. Her heart swelled with pride and love. He is perfect, she whispered to herself. Ethan in turn looked at Leora with awe. She had faced danger, fear, and expectation, and emerged strong, free, and wise. "I am lucky," he said quietly. "We are lucky." Seasons changed and life continued. Leora and Ethan learned to live in harmony with the planet, adapting, growing, and creating. The Zitharan fleet eventually stopped searching, frustrated by their inability to locate the pair. Leora's family slowly accepted her choice, realizing she would not return to the old life. Years passed. The child grew healthy, curious, and strong, a perfect mix of human and alien traits. Leora and Ethan watched as the next generation explored the forests, rivers, and skies. Their family had been born from choice, courage, and love. One evening, as the sun set over the river, Leora leaned against Ethan. "Do you remember the beginning? The prank that brought me to you?" Ethan chuckled. "How could I forget? It changed everything." Leora smiled, her eyes soft with memories. "Yes, it changed everything. And now we are here, free, together, and I am a mother by choice." Ethan pulled her close. "And I am a father by choice. And we made it together." They watched the stars rise over their new home, the galaxy stretching infinitely above them. Danger was gone. Fear was gone. Only freedom, love, and the life they had built remained. And in that quiet, peaceful world, Ethan, Leora, and their child lived the life they had chosen, together, free and full of possibility.